Lunch Outer News, everyone. Well, wireless carrier T-Mobile and Elon Musk SpaceX announcing that they're teaming up to end mobile dead zones in the U.S. Take a listen.
The Starlink second generation satellites will be able to broadcast direct to cell phones. So the cell phones you're holding up there, it will be able to transmit directly to your cell or mobile phone. The important thing about this is that it means there's no dead zones anywhere in the world for your cell phone.
So the company is outlining plans to connect users' mobile phones directly to SpaceX's Starlink satellites in orbit. And the satellites will use T-Mobile's mid-band spectrum to create a new network that most phones used by T-Mobile's customers will be compatible with. So joining me now is telecom expert Hugh Odom, founder and president of Vertical Consultants and a former AT&T attorney. Hugh, it's great to have you on the show. How big of a deal is this announcement?
It's huge. I mean, as Mr. Musk mentioned, it is the elimination of dead zones. If you've ever been out in a remote area and you can't get a signal, that is a problem for a lot of people in a lot of different areas of not only this country, but the world. So that is the foremost benefit of this. The second, for T-Mobile, is a huge advantage over the other carriers, AT&T and Verizon. They're getting a head start on this technology and really gets them way ahead of the game. And third, it really brings Starlink into play as a true telecommunications company, what Mr. Musk has been trying to do for years and is going to accomplish this with that partnership with T-Mobile.
Is there any data, Hugh, to show how reliable this will be?
Well, they're going to start off slow. They have to launch satellites here coming up, that being Starlink. And initially, you're only going to be able to message, and that being a text message or other types of messaging services you have on your phone. However, as the network grows, you'll be able to have phone communications and just like other communications you can use on your phone. So it's going to be a slow process, but it really is important if you think about it, if you're in a remote area, or alternatively, if you're in a natural disaster situation where cell phones go down because of the cell towers have been impacted, et cetera. This provides you a backup system of getting communications with others in your area.
Now, based on SpaceX's satellites, which are going to power this system, do you anticipate that this will be accessible on initial rollout anywhere in the U.S.?
Yes. I mean, when they roll out, the promise is that they're going to cover about 500,000 square miles of areas that are not currently served. So the promise is initially they'll again be limited service, but they will eventually upgrade that service, and that service will cover across the United States in any areas through the T-Mobile network this Starlink is going to piggyback off of.
So clearly, it's definitely a big win for T-Mobile. I think that stock was actually higher today. And Hugh, I know you mentioned other competitors like Verizon and AT&T. Do we know how far behind those two carriers are when it comes to providing a service like this?
Well, Elon Musk mentioned in an article, he mentioned that he's open to any carrier working with him to use their technology. I doubt that T-Mobile is going to allow for that initially. I think there's some other players, AST Technologies is another satellite provider that is trying to get up satellites to provide similar services to Starlink. So I think there's going to be a rush for AT&T and Verizon to find a partner to merge with to try to get this technology as part of their customer service. If not, if you're looking at comparison between a T-Mobile network and a AT&T and Verizon network, there will be no comparison because you won't have the service.
So certainly this works in dead zones, Hugh, but what about service in more busy places that would typically not necessarily be so challenging to get service, yet somehow at times can still be challenging to get service? Is that going to improve that service at all, for instance, in a more metropolitan area or urban setting?
Well, from what we know is that if you for some reason cannot get service, this will be kind of a secondary backup system. So you could log onto that or type into that and use that if the service is down. Like I said, if in certain events, you may have a cell service, let's say T-Mobile, their cell towers go down and you have to use a backup system, or there's an overcapacity and you really need to get a message to somebody. This will hopefully provide that backup system for areas even that are covered, and again, provide you a system where there's no service for T-Mobile or any other carrier to work off of in those dead zones.
What about on airplanes? Any indication as to how this might impact service on an airplane when you're 30,000 feet, for instance, above the ground?
Well, right now, Starlink has rolled out service on airplanes right now. I think Hawaiian Air, they're providing free service. So my guess, and I can't give you a definite answer on this, but I assume that the Starlink service that you're going to be able to use on T-Mobile phones will be available in the air when you're flying across the country or across the world, possibly.
And do we know how many satellites SpaceX currently has launched that will be providing this very service?
Well, they're set to launch their second generation satellites, which will be able to provide the service. I think they're going to launch them later this year or early next year, and there's going to be 2,500, I believe, they're going to be launched, and those will start to build that network to provide this merger service with T-Mobile. So it's going to be, again, a rollout process. This is not something you're going to be able to use your phone tomorrow, but you're going to start seeing a rollout of this throughout the United States.
All right, Hugh Odom, founder and president of Vertical Consultants and a former AT&T attorney. Hugh, thanks so much for the breakdown.